Welcome back to Rivercity Rundown. Today, we're looking ahead to Week 4 and previewing some of the biggest matchups on the slate. This week, we've got a divisional showdown between the Seahawks and the Cardinals, a quarterback duel between Lamar Jackson and Patrick Mahomes, and Micah Parsons makes his awaited return as they face off against the Dallas Cowboys on Sunday Night Football. Let's jump right in. Starting things off with the divisional showdown taking place on Thursday, we've got the Seattle Seahawks visiting the Arizona Cardinals on Prime. Now with this matchup, there's something that gets me riled up about these division games. Nobody quite knows your team like a division rival does. Maybe it's because you see each other twice a year, but there's just always a little bit of extra added drama and flair to these matchups. There's some fantasy implications in this one. Starting things off with the Cardinal side of things, Trey McBride is going up against a 32nd ranked defense, 2 tight ends. The Seahawks have not been able to stop that position yet this year. McBride, as one of the premier tight ends in the league, has an opportunity in front of him to really tear things up. Now, the Cardinals should try and expose the weakness of the Seahawks defense. Not that there's many, but if there were ever one glaring weakness, it would be going to your best player, which just so happens to be the tight end. I think that Marvin Harrison Jr. should get a handful of opportunities. Hopefully he can actually hold on to them this time. And Trey Benson is now going to be the starting running back going forward after the injury to James Conner. I would say that in this one, it should be a grinded out type of game. However, I think that on the Seahawks side of things, they're a little bit better equipped to handle the Cardinals defense, which has not really been proven to be very intimidating through 3 games. Jackson Smith-Njigba is up against a bottom half defense in terms of defending the wide receivers. They're currently ranked 24th due to the Cardinals. And then you've also got Kenneth Walker III going up against the 25th ranked rush defense. I think that both of these stars for Seattle should be able to be very productive and be able to put up a lot of fantasy points for your team as well. Now personally, I would start all key playmakers in this one. I know it could be a little bit weary if you want to start a guy who plays on Thursday, but sometimes you can end up winning the week on Thursdays depending on how they do. My prediction is that the Seahawks take this one 28-14, and JSN totals 8 catches over 100 yards and a touchdown. I also have Kenneth Walker III getting 100 yards on the ground with a touchdown. On to game number 2 that I'm really looking forward to is the Tennessee Titans at the Houston Texans. There's something about these division matchups. For example, when I close my eyes and I think about this one in particular, I just picture Andre Johnson ripping off Cortland Finnegan's helmet and the two just coming to blows. That is a rivalry. I just miss those days. I don't care that they're both 0-3. When I think of this game, I'm thinking of 2 division rivals who just don't like each other and want to beat the crap out of one another. These are guys who are going to give it all, and somebody's bound to win this week. Some fantasy implications in this one is Nico Collins and Calvin Ridley as the primary guys who most likely are rostered on your team. Now, on the Houston side of things, Nico Collins finally had a great game last week, totaled over 100 yards on 8 catches for a touchdown. I think that if Collins can build off of that, it's going to look promising going forward. Nico Collins has a very favorable matchup this week against the Titans, who currently rank 28th to wideouts. I expect Collins to continue to build off of last week's stat line and get in the end zone again and do it for more than 100 yards received. And on the Titans side of things, Calvin Ridley has struggled with getting on the same page as his rookie quarterback Cam Ward so far. But this could be the week that the foreplay comes to an end. The Texans, although they have a great pass rush, are middle of the pack when it comes to defending wide receivers. Will it be more of the same, or will Ridley finally get his first touchdown score of the year? And what I'm going to be watching out for this game is CJ Stroud. The former Offensive Rookie of the Year has looked flat out bad this last year and a half. I know he lost Tank Dell, but he just has not seemed to be on the same page with Nico Collins or other receivers. There's been times where he's not delivering the ball on time or on target, he's making bad decisions, and he's just not leading the team in the way that I thought he would. I do think that the Titans get their first win of the year in this one, albeit an uninspiring one, because I expect this to be another defensive matchup for the Texans. I think their defense will have to help keep them in this matchup, but I don't expect the over-under to surpass 33.5 points. I think that the Titans finally win this matchup, and maybe Cam Ward can build off of it going forward to the rest of this year. And game number 3, I'm really looking forward to the Ravens visiting the Chiefs. Now, I know it's not a division rivalry, but it's still got that rivalry goodness to it, as both of these teams are very familiar with one another. And this could be a potential preview for a playoff matchup come December or January time. And the fantasy implications in this one are pretty self-explanatory. Patrick Mahomes is going to be involved, Lamar Jackson, Derrick Henry, Mark Andrews, Travis Kelce, Zay Flowers. You can go on and on. But in this one, I do expect Derrick Henry and Lamar to bounce back, and both of these guys scoring rushing touchdowns. Henry's going to look to hold on to the ball this time and avoid any fumbles. That was his Achilles heel in his last 3 matchups, but it ends this week. When Zay Flowers is also involved in the passing offense, the Ravens aren't one-dimensional, and it makes them almost impossible to stop. I think that if you can mix in him catching the ball 6 to 8 times, as well as Mark Andrews, and if Isaiah likely returns, I think they're going to be damn near unstoppable. Now for the Chiefs. The Chiefs' pass catchers are going to be heavily relied on in this game. The Ravens can be exposed in the secondary, as we saw against the matchup with the Lions. Now, Mahomes has proven that he'll get the ball to whoever's open, on time and on target. He's going to make some incredible plays with his legs when necessary. And I'm really looking forward to seeing who can really lead their team to victory between Mahomes and Lamar Jackson. Now, my prediction is that the Ravens get back on track after a gut-wrenching loss to the Detroit Lions on Monday Night Football. I think Henry comes out in a big way, rushing for over 100 yards and 2 touchdowns. I've also got Zay Flowers getting a receiving touchdown with over 75 receiving yards. Game number 4. I'm looking forward to this Bears and Raiders matchup. I cannot say it enough. This is going to be the sneaky shootout of the week. This game, I expect to have a lot of points scored. I do expect the Bears to look at all the pass catchers in this game and put up points in a way that we haven't seen them do just yet. Rome Odunze should feast on these Raiders DBs. The Raiders are ranked 30th against wide receivers, and I think that they're one of the worst defensive units in the entire league right now. Now, hopefully, the Raiders are able to match that intensity and get their playmakers involved, like Brock Bowers, Jacoby Myers, maybe Ashton Jeanty for a change and getting him the ball in open space. I think this game has all the potential of being a shootout between 2 bad defenses and 2 emerging offenses. I do predict that the Raiders are going to lose this game in a shootout, 38-27, but I expect a big game by Caleb Williams. I think that Jeanty finally cracks 100 yards on the ground and hopefully gets some receptions along with it. Bowers has multiple touchdowns in a big bounce-back game, but it's not going to be enough as the Bears win this one. Neither of these defenses really strike much fear into the opposing offense, as last week Marcus Mariota just balled out against the Raiders, and the Bears faced little resistance against the Cowboys as Caleb Williams was QB1 on the week. We might be in store for a battle of the 2 offenses here, and that's exciting for fantasy managers. On the Raiders side of things, Ashton Jeanty may finally have his opportunity to go against the poorest defense in Chicago, who ranks amongst the worst defenses in the league right now, as they're 27th against running backs. And Brock Bowers, a week further removed from the knee injury he received in week number 1, should be a lock as a top 3 tight end this week in fantasy football. What I'm going to be looking for is Ashton Jeanty to finally be involved in the passing game, to finally crack 100 yards receiving, and to hopefully score a touchdown in this one. I do, however, expect the Bears to win this shootout, 38-27, in a big game led by Caleb Williams. I think that Ashton Jeanty will finally crack 100 yards on the ground and get some receptions to go along with it. Bowers hopefully has multiple touchdowns and will bounce back in a big way, but it will not be enough as the Raiders fall to the Bears on this one. And another game that has all the potential in the world to be the game of the week, it's the Green Bay Packers visiting the Dallas Cowboys on Sunday Night Football. This old rivalry comes to life once again in week 4 as we have Micah Parsons returning to Dallas. It looks like the Cowboys might be doomed in this one. They just lost CeeDee Lamb with an ankle injury for the next 3 to 4 weeks, and they also lost an offensive guard in Tyler Guyton, which means that George Pickens and Jake Ferguson will be integral to Dallas's and Dak Prescott's success in the coming weeks. Fantasy implications in this one, you've got Josh Jacobs. I expect him to have a big game against this Cowboys front. You've also got guys like George Pickens and Jake Ferguson, who are expected to be heavily relied on. And then you got guys like Javonte Williams, who I don't expect to have a big game. As a matter of fact, I think he's going to be one of the duds of this week. I would not be playing Javonte Williams if I have any other options at the running back position. I do expect the Packers to utilize their passing offense and just attack Dallas' secondary, as we saw them be heavily susceptible to big plays last week against the Chicago Bears. I expect guys like Matthew Golden to have a breakout game this week. On the Cowboy side of things, I'm wondering who's going to step up in the absence of CeeDee Lamb. Somebody's got to get the targets, and I'm looking at Jalen Tolbert. I expect him to be running the majority of the underneath routes and getting a lot of those catches underneath, as well as Jake Ferguson. What I'm watching for is just how many sacks will the Packers get against the Dallas Cowboys this week. It's not a matter of if, but when. And I think that Dallas is in for a tough matchup this week. They lost their offensive guard, which only amplifies this uphill battle that they're up against on Sunday night. So here are a few other games worth a quick mention. Browns at Lions. We'll see if the number 1 overall defense of Cleveland can contain the prolific scoring offense of the Detroit Lions. Eagles and Buccaneers. 2 teams who had heroic defense and special team play late to help secure their wins last week. Vikings at Steelers in Dublin, Ireland. Could we be in store for another Minnesota defensive masterclass against the Steelers in Ireland? Colts at Rams. The undefeated Colts are actually underdogs as they visit Los Angeles to match up against the Rams. I do expect that first loss to come this weekend against the Rams though. Bengals at the Broncos on Monday Night Football. I think the Broncos are in line to bounce back from a tough loss with a feel-good win against the spiraling Bengals. And here are some players that I'm keeping an eye on this week. My breakout candidate of the week is Omarion Hampton versus the Giants. I think that Hampton has an opportunity here to have a big game. After the torn Achilles injury to Najee Harris, this is Hampton's backfield for the foreseeable future against the Giants defense that ranks 29th against running backs at this time. The trap play of this week has got to be Mark Andrews. I know that a lot of people want to put him back in their starting tight ends position after seeing an inspiring game against Detroit this past Monday, but I would just say to be cautious. Currently, Kansas City ranks number 3 overall in defending against the tight end. Now I will say on the lighter side of things, Mark Andrews has one of the higher upsides in terms of scoring an anytime touchdown with this Ravens offense. So just be cautious. A player who's trending all the way up is none other than Jake Ferguson, as he is expected to be a lock for top 5 tight ends as the weeks move forward. With CeeDee Lamb out for the next 3 to 6 weeks, he's going to continue to see high usage rate. He saw a team high 14 targets and caught 13 of them against Chicago last week, and I expect him to see no less than 8 targets for at least the next 4 weeks. The Dolphins are giving up the most points to the running back position. With all that being said, fire up Breece Hall. Listen, I know he's had a rough couple of weeks, but he should be heavily utilized for the Jets in this week's game. A player I'm specifically watching out for this week is DJ Moore as the Bears go up against the Raiders. The Raiders rank 30th, 2 wide receivers right now, and although we have yet to see DJ Moore get more than 6 catches in the game and no receiving touchdowns yet, I think that this is the week I can confidently tell you to fire him up in your starting lineup, as this is the week that both of those stats come to an end. There's a lot at stake with these week 4 matchups. For example, Titans at Texans. Whoever loses this matchup falls to 0-4 and instantly puts their season in jeopardy of missing the playoffs, not even a quarter of the way through the year. This could be a statement game for Cam Ward if he comes out throwing the ball all over the yard and finds his guys for some touchdowns. Now I'd love to hear from you all. What matchup are you most excited for this week? Drop it in the comments or DM me on Instagram. Alright, that wraps up my week 4 matchup previews. The matchup I'm looking forward to most is the Chicago Bears at the Las Vegas Raiders. I'll be locked in on this one for sure. Make sure you're subscribed to Rivercity Rundown, and don't miss tomorrow's Starts and Sits episode where I'll break down the players you can trust and the ones you need to bench. See you then.